Well, hello there. It's me again. You ready for number 9? Hope so, because ready or not, here we go. So I was back and forth a lot on what should we cover in this one. And because if you'll recall, which I'm sure you do, in the previous segment, number 8, we were talking about First Nephi, in the Book of Mormon, First Nephi, chapter 8, which was Lehi's vision of the Tree of Life. And I know I totally set your expectations to talk about Nephi's vision of the Tree of Life. Same vision, but different dude, and the comparison between father and son, and it's super interesting. But here's the thing. In between those two visions, Lehi's vision and Nephi's vision, is chapter 9, is actual chapter 9 of the Book of Mormon. And at first, it's a really small chapter, and I thought to myself, I don't know, maybe we can just kind of squeeze it in there and combine the two. And the more I thought about chapter 9, and it's really about chapter 9 itself, the more I realized, no, you know what? It's small, but it's really important, and there's some super cool things in there, and there's a cool message in it for me and for you and for us, right? So let's take a look at the small but important First Nephi chapter 9 in the Book of Mormon. Okay, so it's interesting. Leading up to this and up until this point, if you'll recall, Nephi really has been telling his father's story. In fact, even the words that he uses, he talks about, he did this, he did that, and my father dwelt in a tent, which, by the way, is interesting. I've learned some things about that, more interesting than I thought. But anyways, it's all kind of this third-person thing. And he doesn't completely walk away from that, but this is the point really where he shifts and starts telling the story on his own terms from his own perspective. Because the very next thing he's going to talk about in chapter 10 is his own dream. So very interesting to see that. But it's interesting. So he sticks in here. This chapter, he's really talking about an interesting commandment that he was given and how that affects the record here that is the Book of Mormon. And so he's kind of given us a little inside glimpse into the writing and the capturing of the history of Lehi's family and of Nephi and his people and all that, which is, it's kind of cool to be able to see that. Anyway, so sorry, let's just jump in. So it's interesting. So this is verse 1 here. And all these things did my father see, meaning the vision, right, of the Tree of Life. All these things did my father see and hear and speak as he dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel. And also a great many more things which cannot be written upon these plates. I'll go ahead and just comment on that, dwelt in a tent thing. This is at least the second time that he comments, maybe the third. I've kind of lost track. How many times he comments that his father is dwelling in a tent. And it's kind of interesting because I think to him and to their family and to their culture, their people, it's a big deal because there's kind of two classes of people or two types of people. There are the city dwellers who they have a home, they have a roof over their heads, their home doesn't move, it's where they live, and they have a community and all that, and that's how they kind of identify themselves. And they collect possessions and whatever. They're just maybe not so different in that way from what we might be used to here. And then there's the others, and just to kind of throw a big word across all of them is the Bedouins, right? The tent dwellers who are they don't stay in one place. They move all around. They live in the desert, and they live in clans and all that sort of thing. And it's a big deal. It's not like people go back and forth, right? Not in those days. Not even today, really. Not much. And so for him, I think part of why he keeps mentioning this, that my father dwelt in a tent, is because it's just a big deal that they've switched lifestyles and they've given away that old lifestyle. It was interesting, though, as I've read up on the Bedouins. So by this time, you'll recall a few chapters back, they went back for the family of Ishmael, right, with all the daughters, and brought that family back, along with also the son of Ishmael, son or sons, and other daughters-in-law, and just kind of the extended family. Anyways, they brought the family of Ishmael and joined it with the family of Lehi, and through marriage, now completely joined. And one of the things that was very interesting that I read about Bedouins is that that's totally common. So you'll have tribes, right, and it's around family, families, basically, family tribes, and that's one of the ways that and it's very common that they will increase their numbers, or just that it's sort of flexible, is that through marriage, and sometimes you get the whole family with them. So anyways, it was kind of interesting to see. Oh, okay, that was a totally normal thing. Oh, and even remember Zoram, the servant of Laban, who came and joined with their group, and it's like he's family now. And that was another thing that in my research it showed is actually not uncommon with the Bedouin, that they're family tribes and they're very fiercely loyal about their family tribes, but they're also fairly open. So someone wants to come join their family tribe and they're good folks, then okay. Anyways, so I mean, I know like nothing about them, but just from the I don't know, half hour of reading that I did into it, those were some things that kind of jumped out, and it was interesting to see just in that little bit of reading about that culture from a totally random source that it lined right up with several of the things that we see that were going on here with Lehi's family. Whew. We're not going to get through this if I stop this much. Anyway, so let's keep going. So Nephi is saying, oh yeah, Lehi, my father, he saw many more things which cannot be written on these plates. So he's talking about these plates. But what plates is he talking about? He's talking about the plates that he's writing on. So he says, now, as I have spoken concerning these plates, behold, they are not the plates upon which I make a full account of the history of my people. For the plates upon which I make a full account of my people, I have given the name of Nephi. Wherefore they are called the plates of Nephi, after mine own name. And these plates are also called the plates of Nephi. Okay, and maybe it sounds a little silly to us, but we know them as the large plates of Nephi. Go scoot over here. There we go. Large plates of Nephi and the small plates of Nephi. So what he's saying is, what he's writing on right now that we're reading from right now are the small plates of Nephi. And now he's going to explain why that is. Why would he have the large plates where he has the full history, and then the small plates where he has just this? So he says, verse 3, nevertheless, I have received a commandment of the Lord that I should make these plates for the special purpose that there should be an account engraven of the ministry of my people. Upon the other plates should be engraven an account of the reign of the kings, and the wars and the contentions of my people. Wherefore these plates are for the more part of the ministry, and the other plates, large plates, are for the more part of the reign of the kings and the wars and contentions of my people. Wherefore, Wherefore, the Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I know not. But the Lord knoweth all things from the beginning, wherefore he prepareth a way to accomplish all his works among the children of men. For behold, he hath all power unto the fulfilling of all his words, and thus it is. Amen. Now, okay, so the large plates of Nephi, well, let me say it this way. The small plates of Nephi, the ones that we're looking at right now, they're going to run out pretty soon. We're going to discover as we get into a few more chapters. I mean, it's a little ways off, but closer than you think. And we're going to suddenly, these plates are done. There's no more room. The end. And so okay, and then we're going to flip over to an abridgment, right? An abridgment of the large plates of Nephi, and And what has actually happened right here and now, Nephi is telling us, is that all along he had already been writing on the large plates, right? So, and he doesn't talk about it specifically here, but his father, Lehi, a record had been kept, an original record of Lehi's travels and all of that, his visions and his prophecies and everything. An original record had been kept. It's not referred to specifically in here, although it is interesting. Some comments are made. Jacob, Nephi's younger brother, who we haven't even met yet, he makes comments about how this record is blessed, and it's important that it has to remain. It can't go away, disintegrate or whatever, perish. And so there is a group of scholars who suspect that the writings of Lehi were actually kept on some sort of perishable material, parchment or I don't know what, and that by the time that second generation was old, the writings of Lehi were already getting kind of sketchy. So anyways, what we ended up with then was Lehi's, Nephi's journey, all of that, everything that we've read so far, that there was already a full, very comprehensive version of this written on the large plates of Nephi, right? So Nephi is sitting there thinking, sweet, I got that covered, so let's just kind of keep up with, Dear Diary, it's Tuesday, and here's what we did today. And then all of a sudden, kaboom, the Lord comes in and says, hey, Nephi, pause what you're doing, and I need you to do something. I need you to redo all of that history from most of your life, because remember, this happened, he's writing all this at the end of his life. He's kind of going back and retelling the story of his life. So, Nephi, I need you to rewrite your history, only I don't want you to write everything. I want you to just focus in on just the most important spiritual matters, right? And you've got to do this. And so I need you to make new golden plates, and I need you to do this. I need you to rewrite it, focusing on the spiritual. And, so you figure, even though he's doing this decades after they had landed in the New World, and it's a pretty abundant place and all that, and gold is, I guess, fairly available. Still, it's not like there was a golden plate store, right? They didn't have Amazon.com. They just had the Amazon. But anyways, no, they didn't. Anyways, sorry, I distracted myself. It was hard to, if we think about it, the hassle factor of saying, hey, Nephi and Laman, Lemuel, Sam, I need you to go back and get the brass plates. That was a hassle, right? All that walking back and all the walking and the Laban and all that stuff. Hey, boys, I need you to go get Ishmael and wives. Okay, that was a hassle, and back they come. But think about, hey, I need you to go and find gold ore and extract it from, get the gold and molten and turn it into plates and get it just so. And then I need you to get your little sharp stick and I need you to rewrite. And can you imagine the hand cramp that's involved? The thing you've already done, I need you to do it again. I need you to do it again. And I'm not even going to tell you why. Just trust me. Will you trust me? And that must have taken him so long to to go back through and do all of that and rewrite it all and get back to this point, and then from this point on basically maintain two records, right? And so why what does he know? Well, he's pretty clear in here. He doesn't know, right? The Lord hath commanded me to make these plates for a wise purpose in him, which purpose I know not. But he has faith, right? But the Lord knoweth all things from the beginning. Wherefore he prepareth a way to accomplish all his works among the children of men. For behold, he hath all power under the fulfilling of all his words. And thus it is. So, did Nephi ever find out? I don't know. Maybe he did. Well, and do we know all of the reasons? Of course we don't, right? One of the things that's super cool about Heavenly Father is that he never does just one thing when he does a thing. When he does a thing, he's just accomplishing, he's putting checks in so many boxes. It's crazy. So, do we know some of the reasons why? Well, yeah, we do. So, Nephi kept this record himself, the small plates of Nephi. After Nephi was done, then his brother Jacob took over. And now after that, then the descendants of Jacob for a little while, but the plates were getting smaller and smaller until they're just saying, okay, hi, bye, the end. And so that accounts for just a little bit of the Book of Mormon. And then the rest of it, the vast majority of the Book of Mormon, was actually abridged by the prophet Mormon, who was at the very end. He was 1,000 years after Lehi, right? And he was going back over all the records, all the large plates of Nephi and all the other different records, and bringing them all together and creating the Book of Mormon. So if you were then to take the golden plates that Joseph Smith got and start on page 1 and begin, which is, of course, what Joseph did. He started on page 1 and he began. The first thing that he came to was not these small plates. It was actually the record of Lehi, right? So there he is, and they spent Joseph. Now we're talking about Joseph Smith. He and his scribes spent a very long time, weeks and weeks, dictating and translating and scribing this first section, right, which is the book of Lehi. And do you know the story? So let's see, I have notes. Can I read my notes? We are in the year 1828, right? And his scribe at the time, Martin Harris, who was a great man, but flawed. Martin Harris, his wife Lucy was very antagonistic. She was getting tired of Martin spending all of his time with Joseph, locked in some room doing what now? What are you doing? It's a golden Bible, what? And Martin had put so much of their family money into this to help support this, right? And so his wife she's going nuts. She's like, why are you doing this? You're wasting our money, you're wasting our time, you're not getting our crops planted. What are you doing? So she was putting all this pressure on Martin. And so he asked Joseph, can I borrow the manuscript? There was 116 pages. Can I borrow this and go show it to my wife? Because she needs to see what we're doing. And I think if I can show her, then she'll be okay. And then we can continue. And Joseph said, well, let me ask the Lord. So he asks, and the answer is no. And sorry, Martin, no. And, he pestered, and he came back a couple times. And finally, after, I think the third time going to the Lord basically said, okay, but it's on you. Don't lose these. Okay, and so Martin, don't lose these, right? Okay, I won't. And so, of course, Martin takes them, and, he had kept them locked in a safe place in their house, and, of course, they turn up missing, right? The manuscript is gone. And, oh my goodness, right? And so it was a huge deal, and I don't want to go into the whole entire thing, but the bottom line is it was never recovered, and the Lord commanded Joseph not to go back and retranslate the part that he had already written because of a concern that the missing manuscript was in the hands of wicked people who would then change it and bring it back once a retranslated version of it was represented to the people in the completed Book of Mormon. They'd come back and say, aha, they would make changes to it, and they would bring the changed document posing to be the real document and say, ha, look, see, he's a fake prophet. This is all bogus. And so the Lord said, nope, you're not going to retranslate it. And, so you're thinking, oh my goodness, we've just lost the whole account of Lehi and his family and all that stuff. How are we ever going to recover that? No problem. They hadn't translated up to this point here, to the beginning of the record of the small plates of Nephi. And so, because that was just right where they had stopped, I guess. And so, how about that? So in the golden plates, there's essentially 2 accounts of the family of Lehi coming across, right? And everything up to this point. 2 accounts. Why is there 2 accounts? Well, one of the reasons why there's 2 accounts is because the Lord knew that one of them was going to get lost, right? It's going to go away. And that for important reasons, it wouldn't be appropriate to retranslate that. And since we know we're going to lose the first one, then we better have a backup copy right in there. And so how cool is that? There's Nephi, right? He's talking to us about essentially writing a backup copy of Lehi's journey. And he doesn't know why. And it's a pain in the neck. I mean, he doesn't say it's a pain in the neck, but we can imagine it was a serious pain in the neck. But he just did it. And thank heavens he did it, right? Because what if we had lost all that? What if we had no record of any of that? And in fact, the small plates that he created, right, we're only a little bit into them. We've got a lot more really good stuff that we're going to have here. So, and one of the neat things is once we leave the small plates, so Mormon tells us at the end, it's kind of cool how these prophets, they talk to us, and they literally are talking to us about the process of creating these records. And Mormon's saying, hey, I thought I was done abridging all these records, and hey, I found this cool little set of plates, the small plates of Nephi, and they are of great worth. I love these. And so I'm sticking them in as is, right? And this is what Mormon, he tells us this way in the back. And so what that means, though, this is super unique because it is not abridged, right? It's not Mormon paraphrasing the words of Nephi and Lehi and Jacob, who we'll meet. We don't get Lehi's actual words except for a few little quotes, but we get, this is pure Nephi, unabridged, untranslated. It's just Nephi talking. And we get Jacob talking, and we get some of their, other posterity talking. And so we get to get a feel for their personalities, and it's neat. There's little flaws and there's little nuances and things that probably wouldn't have stayed in there if what we were reading was Mormon's abridgment of this. So it is neat, and it's a great blessing to us that Heavenly Father said, Nephi, stop what you're doing, and I want you to redo all of this, and I want you to put it on a separate set of plates. Like, how cool is that? I thought about another aspect of the backup copy that I think was important. So Martin Harris, let me show you a picture of Martin Harris. He's a handsome fellow. There's Martin Harris right there. And a lot of people they don't remember him fondly because of the lost 116 pages, and that's a bummer. It was a tragedy that he lost that, but you can understand. Well, it's hard to understand, right? He gave everything for the church, and he continued to give even after this, right? In fact, Martin Harris was literally the guy who fulfilled the prophecy of the learned man. It's in Isaiah, right? The learned man will see the whatever, and he says, I cannot read a sealed book and all that, right? That was Martin Harris. So, that was cool what he did there. But even though he went through a really rough time, he did so much for the church that it's unfortunate that we would think poorly of him. But much, much more important than what we think of him is what Heavenly Father thinks of him and what he thinks of himself. And can you imagine the difference, right? It became okay that the 116 pages were lost because of the fact that there was a backup copy, right? But imagine, and so when Martin discovers this, like, the relief must have been incredible, versus if that hadn't have been there, then I can't even imagine what would have happened to Martin or what he would have thought of himself. Like, it's just gone and we've got nothing, and I have completely destroyed this, and who knows. And so by doing this, another little tender mercy that the Lord arranged for is to make it possible for a good man who kind of crumbled a little bit under some pressure, but it was a lot of pressure. He stumbled in a very visible way and made a pretty big mistake. And the Lord, through his tender mercy, made it a little bit more doable for him to come back. And he did come back, and we're so grateful that he did. That's kind of cool, right? I love that he did that. Oh, one other kind of neat thing. So the title page of the Book of Mormon, which is the very first page, explains the whole thing, and it's written by Moroni himself. If that had been literally placed on page 1 of the golden plates, page 1, title page, and written by the hand of Moroni, and blah, 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 if that had been on page 1, that would have been part of the 116 pages, and it would have been lost, gone. But instead, for whatever reason, Moroni, the last person to touch the plates, right? The last Nephite to touch the plates. Moroni, when he was all done, that was the last thing he did, just kind of describing now the whole thing. And he knew he was about to just kind of put a bow on it and stick it in the stone box, buried in the thing, and never see it again. He took that description and he put it in the back, on the bottom, instead of on the top. So that as Joseph was translating, when he got to the very, very end, turn the page, oh, and here's a title page. But he hadn't even got to that part at the point that the 116 pages were stolen, or lost, stolen, whatever. And so how cool is that the Lord even said, okay, I have a very special title page, but I'm not going to put it in the front because I don't want it to get nabbed. I'm going to put it at the end, and then everything is going to work out fine. Very cool. So, neat story. I've been yapping about it for longer than I wanted to, but what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us? And here's part of what I think. The Lord asks us to do things that we might not understand. Sometimes it's, He'll whisper to us to say something to somebody, or to, help somebody, or who knows what. It's always good things, right? He never tells us to go kick someone in the shin. Maybe He's whispering to us to forgive somebody or something, and and we might not understand why. Why would I want to do that? What difference would this make? Or, I don't understand why it's important for me to do that. Okay, well, that might be true. You might not understand why it's important for you to do that thing. So do you wait until you understand and then you go do it? Is that the way that we should operate? Now, let me give you a broader example. What if, as a people or as a church, changes are made, and they sure are being made now, right? All sorts of different things. Are we going to look at those changes and say, I don't understand why those changes are being made? That doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. And do we kind of put on this skeptical, I don't know why they're doing that expression? And do we think skeptical thoughts in our minds? I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Or do we say, well, I don't understand why, but the Lord has pretty much a perfect record so far of doing things way smarter than I could ever do them, because He clearly knows the beginning from the end, and so if He's the one calling the shots, and so if He thinks that this is, doing this right now is going to be, have blessings later or whatever, I'm in. I don't understand it. I'd like to understand it. I want to understand it, and I'm going to try to understand it, but I don't understand it today. But I'm not going to hold back. I'm still going to go for it, whatever it is, changing, well, even, like refocusing on the original name of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints instead of Mormon. Why is that important? What's the big deal? It's a habit. Nobody thinks bad. It's no big deal. Well, I don't know, but we've been asked to do it, and we've been promised blessings if we do it. So great. Let's do it, right? And who knows, maybe in, a year or a decade or a lifetime, a generation will figure out, oh my goodness, it's so good that we did that because blah, 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 things that we couldn't have ever foreseen when we were sitting here. And I'm so glad we did. And we might look back and see, wow, I'm so glad I did, and I'm so glad we did, and wow, look what happened to the ones who didn't do that. They kind of, they didn't receive that blessing, whatever it was. Maybe they drifted, because that's not faith, right? If you sit there and do the skeptical thing, say, I'm not going to do that until I understand it better. That's not faith, right? Anyways, so that's chapter 9. Short chapter, interesting chapter, a neat little chapter, and I'm glad it's there. And I think all of us need that lesson on faith. I sure do, right? I try not to do the skeptical thing, but I think it sneaks out in some of us all the time. And, for sure, especially when I'm tired, it's the end of the day, and I gotta, I don't want to go do that. I want to just go home and put my feet up. And I'm still working on that one. So, anyways, First Nephi, chapter 9. You've heard me yapping about it now. Now it's your turn. You go read it. You go pray about it. See what you can learn. You'll learn different things than what I just talked about. I guarantee it. So it's your turn. Go do it. See you later.